Hello and welcome to Crimes of the Heart Tarot. I'm Miss Vicki, and I'm going to use the tarot to see if we can gain more insight into unsolved mysteries, deaths, and disappearances. Let's get started. Welcome. Today I want to do a reading on the tragic death of Sean Daugherty. He was a 12-year-old boy found hanging from the backyard swing set of his home, April 14th, 2022. It was horrible. He was the only one home at the time, except for his 2-year-old brother, who he was watching. His mother and grandmother had to go to an appointment, and his older sister was at school, but would have been on her way home. So he was unexpectedly alone after school and watching his brother, his little 2-year-old brother. Now, he was a really happy little boy, smart. His mother and stepfather, who he lived with, were military. His mother, Ramona, was a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force, and she was about to be transferred to the Pentagon. He was very excited about that, proud, happy. He posted about it. He was a happy little boy. He was a smart little boy. And when his mother and grandmother had to go to an appointment, they waited till Sean came home from school. They left, and Sean did his homework, started to take the trash out, made a snack, and his mother called him a brief phone call. And his older sister came home about an hour after the phone call. Front door was locked. She couldn't get in. Sean wasn't answering the door. And she called her mother. Her mother said, "Why don't you go around to the back? He's probably in the backyard." And this is horrible. There she found Sean hanging from the swing set with a bag over his head. His hands had been tied down at his sides with a belt. He was barefoot. And apparently, there's question as to whether he was actually dead at the time or just unconscious. They called 911 immediately. Mother came home. Horrible. This is horrible. I can't even imagine finding your child like that. Now, personally, I do not believe this was self-inflicted. The sheriff investigated, said Sean did all these things to himself. They talked about possible bullying. His mother said no, there was just a small incident. If he'd been bullied, he was moving away, which would have solved that problem. It was a school thing. And they found him wearing his stepfather's shorts and a shirt or a top. So I tried to picture this. It's horrible. Hanging from the swing set with a cord around his neck, a bag over his head, a belt around his waist securing his hands and his arms. They were down at his sides. I don't believe I could do that to myself. I don't know how a 12-year-old boy could do that. So my question is, I believe this was done to him. As horrible as it sounds, I'm hoping to get more information from the cards. I'm really upset about this. Such a terrible thing. I'm just going to lay some cards down. I'm using the Omega Land deck. I had a hard time deciding which deck to use, too. And I finally decided on this one. I felt strongly that this is the one I should be using. It's kind of like after the end of the world type thing, and with militants and people defending themselves, preppers, that kind of thing. I cannot say that word. After an apocalypse, how they're dealing with the world. All right, I'm just going to lay cards down to start. See if we can get a feeling about what went on. First of all, I believe someone came over and came in and did this to him. So everybody says, oh, it was just an hour, you couldn't have done it. But he couldn't have done this to himself. He didn't plan it. I just don't believe he did. Just don't believe that. So let's see what cards we get. All right, we've got the Two of Swords. All right, this is making a decision, standing back. Swords are ideas. This could indicate two people. That's interesting. Two of Cups. Excuse me. This is two people coming together. It's a positive card. I'm reading these upright because they have such detail in the picture. So I'm going to start with this. These two people looking at a map. They've got a compass. Two people. King of Swords. King of Swords is someone with really not a lot of feelings and emotions. It can be thoughts. It can be somebody that's cut and dried, good leader, but not a lot of sympathy. The Nine of Cups. This is an individual, single woman, strong on her own. Then we have the Death card. There it is. There's people on the ground and this big shadow. I think there were two people. I think this had been planned for a long time. Looking at these cards. I think this is the door. I think two people, and I don't know how they would have known that he was going to be alone for a while unless, I mean, let's get just real basic about this and really go out on a limb. Unless they were listening to the phones, it had to be something like this. It's not crazy to think that. Two people, they knocked on the front door. That's what I'm getting. Sean was alone with his little brother. Now, Sean was used to military, too. This is something else. I think that's why I was drawn to these cards. Sean was in a military family, military environment. He was used to seeing people in uniform. This is really interesting. The World card, this is an ending. This is two people on top planning, two people on the bottom. This is a plan that you've done, a life plan, and you ended it. Strength card. Oh wow, look. There's someone tied up in ropes, helpless. And we have the Lovers. We have the Lovers and we have the Two of Cups. Two people. I don't know that it was a man and a woman. I feel like it was two men. And we have the Six of Swords. This is moving away from a bad situation. Look at the planning. This was planned. They planned this. And I think it was two men. This was planned in detail. And they'd done this before. I get that they'd done this before. The Empress. This is Sean's mother, I think. She, Ramona, is a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force, soon to be transferred to the Pentagon. That's really high ranking. A Pentagon houses all the military for the United States, all the different branches of the military. And that's where she was going, and Sean was very excited about that. He couldn't wait to go to the Pentagon and get some of their chocolates. This is not a little boy that is thinking of just ending it all. All right. Wow, I get planning. I get, they knocked on the front door. And I'm thinking, as the fact that his parents, his mother and stepfather were military, the neighbors had to have been used to seeing military people. Not that they all had uniforms on, but I think that would have been a really good cover. I'm getting that. That's why I was drawn to these cards, I think. Seven of Cups. Here we go again. This is planning. This is, well, I don't know if you can see these. This is planning, setting up your supplies, organizing it. It's two people. Then we have the Six of Cups. This is childhood things or the past. This is thinking of pleasant things, but look at this. There's barbed wire, people with military stuff in an enclosure. There's a reason why I felt drawn to these cards. Draw a few more. Okay, so what I'm getting is two men in uniform. And I get two men. I think a bigger guy and a smaller guy in uniform. Sean would have opened the door, I believe, to two men in uniform if they knocked on the front door. One of these guys was really big. They forced their way in, knocked them to the ground, but there were two of them. And this was so well planned. Okay, so Sean's at home, knock on the door, two men, one in military, opens the door and he says, my mom's not home, and they forced their way in. Okay, that's when the action took place. This is their planning. And I'm not going to say why yet. I want to just go with this. Okay, I think they planned to do this to Sean. They knew they weren't, the mother wasn't home. So they forced their way in. Sean's there, he's 12. He probably said, what are you doing? I mean, I'm trying to think. I'm visualizing him in my mind. I think they had planned, they grabbed him. The little brother saw this too, because the little brother said something about a man fighting with Sean. One of the guys, this is what I'm getting. Look at this. One of the guys, there they are right there, grabbed him, subdued him. How would you subdue him? I think working. Oh my God, there's the Hanged Man. They had to have had a way to subdue him because he's 12 years old. I mean, he's not a little baby. So what would you do? What would you do? I think they'd put something, I think that, I think they used something like chloroform over his face, and the baby was only 2, so the other guy, I know this sounds ridiculous, but it's like a picture in my head. The cards are just telling me this is what happened. It's a little moving picture. Then we have judgment. Judgment. If they use something like chloroform and put over his mouth, he wouldn't have struggled. The baby, they could have picked the baby up and put him in the other room. They could have even chloroformed the baby. I don't know why I'm getting chloroform. I just am. Okay, so why did they change his clothes? At that point, was he nauseated from the chloroform? Did he throw up all over himself? That could be. I don't think they planned for that. That happened. There's planning. There's two people planning this. All right, if they chloroformed him, it could be like the movies where you see a rag over their nose and they're instantly gone. But I think chloroform can make children sick, or people. So I'm going to read them up right. Let's say he got sick. They had planned this. This is almost like a military action is what I'm feeling. That's why these cards are calling me. It's the beginning of a different idea. So if he was sick, that would be evidence. And they didn't want to leave evidence. They wanted to leave a mystery. So they would have stripped his clothes off, gone to the nearest bedroom, and grabbed some pants and a top, taken his off. And they never found the clothes Sean was wearing, and he had a video of himself in those clothes. But they went to the nearest room. I don't know if they knew that was not his room. They put his stepfather's pants and a top on him. They took his clothes, which I think had been vomited on, because those would be evidence of whatever caused him to get sick. I could be crazy. I don't know. I'm just getting this. I have like a motion picture in my mind. This really bothers me. I know he did not do this to himself. I'm just making a movie here with the cards. The cards are leading the way. Okay, so there's two of them. The other one took the little boy, maybe gave him some of that sedative, put him on a chair. He was found on a chair with laundry on top of him. Okay, so they're a unit, these two guys. They worked together before. This was planned. This was a military operation, is what I get. Okay, so they got him changed. They go into the garage. I don't know if they brought the bag with them or not. There was stuff for the Goodwill or donations in the garage. They picked him up, took a bag and a cord. There was a cord off a bag of motorcycle helmets. They carried him into the backyard, and he would have been out or even dead, I don't know, or comatose. They put his hands on the cord to make it look like he did it, which they said there was DNA. And we're talking military. These people are, I want to say, mercenaries. They've done this a lot. They've done this before. There he is. He wasn't upside down, but we got death, we got the hanged man. They carried him out there, through the kitchen, out the back door, and they put a belt around his stepfather's belt around his hands to tie him down. Why they would do that, I don't know. Maybe he was still fighting back. Put a bag over his head. The cord, they tied the cord and fixed it so he would strangle, or it looked like he had strangled. And the other weird thing is, the daughter said there was a large handprint on the back. I guess the kitchen goes to the back door, or the backyard. That's how they took him out. So, there they are again. We're talking a couple of military types. Mercenary, I want to say mercenaries, because I don't think military people would do this, real military people. There was something going on. They set the scene in the backyard. They exited out the back, and his mother said the back door was unlocked and the back right side gate, which they never used, which was a big bush in front of it. Okay, so why? Why? Let's see what we can get. Why? Why would they do such a heinous crime to a little boy? Seven of Swords. Taking advantage of someone. This is someone that will do anything to get what they want. Why would they do that? And I believe that that's how it happened. I don't think I could even do that to myself. Oh, and another thing was his feet were clean. And the police, the sheriff's office showed a picture of the backyard. There was a little grass growing. They were very upset that the parents contradicted what they said. And Knight of Wands, they're making their getaway. I don't know that they had a motorcycle, but they had a plan. I think they just walked off. They had planned this. There were gardeners in the area. But the gardeners were making a lot of noise, you know, if they had their little machines, and gardeners just do what gardeners do. I don't know, they had the earplugs on and all that. I know this sounds really far-fetched, but why would they do this? Why would they do this? Let's have a card that tells me why they would do this. They planned this. This was a military precision drill type situation. Whether you're the Queen of Coins. We have two female cards. The Queen of Coins. This is a positive woman. I think this is Sean's mother. It was, wow, I get payback. Not so much revenge, but I get payback. And it wasn't anything she did wrong, or her husband did wrong, or Sean's father did wrong. This was payback for something that happened to these two men, to their friends, to their buddies. Payback. It's payback. Ten of Swords. Yeah, look at that. This is payback. This is the ultimate overkill. This is payback for something that happened to these men or to their buddies concerning military action, while Sean's mother, I get his mother, was in charge of something. She didn't do anything wrong. She did follow orders. But they did this as payback. Wow. The sad thing is, the sheriff isn't going to do anything. If this is military, if these are mercenaries that targeted his mother, or the Pentagon even for something. There's the Ten of Cups in reverse. Two people. In reverse, it's two people not in a happy home. These two guys were out for vengeance. And it might not have been to them particularly. It might not have been, Sean's mother might have been an innocent person involved in this. And what they did was horrible. Another thing that occurred to me when I was trying to visualize, and that was hard. This is hard. I've tried to do this reading for several days now, and it's been really difficult to get myself geared up. Another thing that occurred to me was the way they staged Sean, hanging with the bag over, and it's hard to visualize this, hanging from a cord. They said a shoelace, but it was a cord off of a bag, with the bag over his head, his hands tied to his sides. What does that remind you of? It reminds me of the awful things we've seen on TV that, I'm going to name names, but I'm not targeting them or saying it was anything to do with them. Like things the Taliban was doing to people. Or I even like the Mexican cartel, but I don't know that I see drugs. I don't know what I see. I just see something that happened under his mother's watch, that she was doing her duty, and something happened to them. And this is vengeance. This is payback for something. Gosh, I hope I've got all the information right on this. They took his clothes because I think he got sick. And they had, whatever they gave him, chloroform. I know a little bit about that. It does cause some people to get violently sick. And another thing is when the mother came home and she saw the ambulance and everything, the little 2-year-old was under a pile of laundry on a chair, and he was groggy. She couldn't wake him up, like he'd been given a little bit of whatever they gave Sean. I think that's why the change of clothes happened, because his clothes are missing. They took his clothes, the clothes with the regurgitation on them. Well, that's my theory. The cards are leading me there. I'd like to know what you think about this. The other thing is that if this is military, the police would have been told to back off. The military will investigate this. And also there was a large handprint. This is the last crazy thing, and then I'm going to close the circle because I don't want to think about this anymore. There was a large handprint, a big handprint, up on the top of the glass in the kitchen back door. And it was like a perfect handprint. And the police didn't even look for fingerprints, but they did come out, and they took I don't know if they took a picture of it or whatever. It did have, it was totally intact. They were told that it was a good clear print, but nothing came up when they ran it. Then they were told later that there was a bad print and nothing came up. I think the sheriffs and the police were told to stand down. I think this is in the hands of the military, and unfortunately, I don't think we'll ever know what happened. I just want to put out there that Sean did not do this to himself. There is just no way. And it's a real shame that there isn't more positive information coming out. It may never come out, but I know what happened. I think it's horrible, and I hope the people that did this are caught. That's all I can say. I just had to get this off my chest. So I'm going to close the circle. Please subscribe, like, share, and leave positive comments. And hopefully next time it won't be quite so negative. We'll see you next time. Bye.